Thank you so much, Prem, for joining us on a podcast at Dawdle. Extremely grateful that you took out time to share your insights and experiences with our global audience. Before we get to the topics, Prem, would be great if you could take us through your journey so far to give a context to our audience.
Great. So it is great to be here, part of your show, and also talking about my experience. And I believe it will be helpful for a lot of people watching the show as well, right? So on my journey, so I have about 25 plus years of experience, and I've been through different sectors in my career, starting with software development and moving up the ladder into managing the applications infrastructure, and also doing a bit of change management leadership along the way, and taking care of the entire digital portfolio in both of the organizations. So my entire career has been on the transformations if you look at. So this has given me a lot of understanding on how technologies work and how to use those technologies to the benefit of the customer.
Thank you so much,
And
Prem.
yeah.
Yeah. Prem, you have driven digital transformation across various industries like
Mhm.
healthcare, mobility, financial services, and manufacturing. How has this diverse experience influenced the way in which you approach technology-led change?
Okay. So, like I said, I come with a cross-sector exposure, for 25 years of experience. So I started with software development. So this experience basically gave me an understanding on how to build applications and how do systems work. That is the most essential part. So the second part of my journey, I transitioned into a mining industry, right? So since it is a manufacturing industry, so I got to know how process makes things much more efficient. So we basically looked at lean philosophies, which says that reducing Muda, Mura, and Muri, which basically says reducing the waste, which is 7 or 8 types, reducing the inconsistency and the strain on how you. The second part of my journey was more into understanding how those process and applications work and how simplified the process can be made so that your application is very effective. So the third phase of my journey, I went into banking. So here it is more of understanding how the banking ecosystem works. So this was I would say, a GCC in India. So they run their back office operations, which includes application development, maintenance, as well as the BPOs. So I was playing a role of a change leader, taking all my learnings from where I was earlier
Yes.
on the Lean Six Sigma, and also looking at from an application perspective, teaching them how to use these tools and techniques for optimizing their daily work. So this was the third part of my journey. The next part is, see, in the banking, basically, I learned a lot of how to influence people. Right? This is more of a change manager or a change leader trait that you need to have. Moving from here, I went into an automotive manufacturing.
Yes.
So where it gave me an outlook of how the entire digital ecosystems work together. And plus, you also require a lot of influencing traits to kind of get people along with you in those digital transformation. So here we kind of integrated different applications, starting from product lifecycle management to an ERP to an application lifecycle management, then DMS and so on. So this gave me a lot of perspective on how these kind of make things easier for people if they have an omni-channel data flow, right? Transitioning from one phase to the other phase in terms of automotive manufacturing, design and manufacturing. So keeping all these four different experiences together. So when I joined St. John's, right? So this was way back in 2022. So it helped me kind of envision what they are looking at for a 60-year-old hospital.
Yes.
So they were still on paper. We see a lot of colorful papers, different thickness of papers. So floating around, we wanted to make sure that these are removed and the digital workflows are in place so that we can efficiently manage the hospital operations. So all these learnings made me a kind of believe that technology is an enabler to bring a business value, which can also contribute to your downstream, I would say, revenues.
Prem, wanted to understand that
Mhm,
since you have worked across various industries and companies,
mhm.
like what are the main triggers that an organization start thinking about a large scale digital transformation?
Okay, so the main triggers basically, I would say, one is like any business. So if I want to give you my taking an example of my ex organization, which is St. George. So We did a detailed study on how the processes are. So we did an internal audit and we identified a lot of areas that we need to improve. It could be basically, I would say, material management, or it could be finance process itself, and it could be the quality of service that we render to the patient. So we understand all these things, and then we kind of come out with a digital vision on how do we address that. So what we did it here is we evaluated all the of the complaints that patients were kind of putting across in their issue management or a complaint tracking system. So we identified 6 areas that we need to look at. So the first is the accessibility to healthcare. How does the patient get access to the hospital?
Yes.
So it could be over a phone, or it could be through an app, or it could be through a portal, and so on. Right? So we identified all that. So and the third is the second part is how do you have a pre and post visit, improve your pre and post visit experience of the patient. So once he is before entering into the hospital, what the patient needs to do, and after entering into the hospital, what the patient needs to do, how you are giving the patient the experience. For example, if the patient wants to book an appointment, he can go to a portal and block an appointment with the doctor. Now, once he is into the hospital, right, then he has to basically come pay the, I would say, the subscription or the consultation fees. Then the token number is issued. So then, how do you manage all that? So that is the pre-experience and the current experience. And also, after the patient goes back, how do you manage the post-visit experience as well? Right? For example, does he require a reminder, or does he require certain information that we can share? The third part is we looked at how do you engage the patient. Okay, so once he's into the hospital, how do we keep the patient engaged? And the fourth part is mostly how do you address the unmet needs of the patient. So when I say unmet needs of the patient, could be the patient is traveled 200 kilometers coming down to the hospital. And if they don't find the doctor, or if they find a certain equipments, for example, X-ray machine not working, then obviously whatever they have come for is a waste.
Yes.
Right? So basically it becomes an unmet need. Right? So how
Right.
do we handle that?
Mhm.
So these are the four, I would say, the numerators that we looked at, and we have two denominators that we also kind of factored in. The denominators, I would say, is the cost. It doesn't mean the cost of the service, but also it means taking into consideration the cost of travel, accommodation, food of the patient, and the service charges of the hospital and so on. How do we kind of bring it down? How do we optimize it? The sixth part is the management of resources. How do you make sure the material or the medicines are available at the right time at the right? So these 6 pillars I would call as. Right? So this basically, if we kind of address this, you will have a complete system where you can manage things more effectively with a good amount of traceability.
This is very well explained. You explained the entire value chain of the hospital. And so what I feel is that mapping the value chain and identifying what are the gaps and what are the improvements is the building blocks, sir, I think, right? Of
Yes. So if I want to add one more level of detailing, we call it as a patient life cycle value, right? So we have about different verticals in that, and how do you map all those verticals?
Prem, if you see the Indian healthcare ecosystem, it has been told that it's very slow to adopt digital innovation.
Mhm.
So, from your perspective, what are the biggest challenges that you see in modernizing the healthcare systems?
Okay. So when I joined St. John's, right? So, and even before I left in 6 months back, so I was basically surprised by how things work. So some things are miraculous, which I don't even have answers to that. So the biggest bottleneck that I would say is it's people, people, people. So you can implement technology. So you pay the money, you can implement technology, and you can also tune the technology to your process. Yes, it works. But again, ultimately, when it is not adopted, then you have a problem. So the first challenge is that people know how do you deal with that, right? So that's something that every organization will work on along with the different stakeholders. What I experienced is a digital transformation is not an IT project.
Yes, yes,
It is an organization-wide initiative.
yes.
So since you are, what do you say, you have experience in dealing with those technologies and how to make those technologies work together. You lead it from the front, but ultimately it is an entire organization's initiative. It's something like quality. Quality belongs to every employee,
Yes.
right? It is not only to the quality team, right, or the head of quality. So we need to take everybody together.
Hmm.
You will find somebody very fast, you will find somebody very slow, and you have to basically make sure that everybody is on the same plane and working towards those set targets. So this setting of targets is a little complex because you have a plethora of people, you need to get them together to decide and so on. It takes its time. So again, so this has to be effectively managed. And I would say that if things have to be effectively managed, then you need to have a certain performance management
Hmm.
things in place, right? You need to have your objectives set tuned to those
Right.
digital transformations. So if you miss that, then you'll go bumpers. So, and the second is when I talk about people, and we often see a Dunning-Kruger effect. So when I say Dunning-Kruger effect, so there are people who know a little, who don't have an exposure to the outside world, how things work, but yet they try to influence.
Hmm.
And then you have the people who are on the opposite side, who know everything, but they don't want to speak,
Yes.
right? So you need to align two of them together. That you need to give the latter much more accountability in driving things because they know a lot.
Hmm.
So that's also one of the challenges that you see. The fourth part is we often see, I call it as a triple B effect. It's called a backwards brain bicycle effect. There's more on, I would say, neuroplasticity side of things. People are kind of subjected to certain ways of working. So it is always kind of wired the hard way. If you tell them you have to do things differently, they they get messy around you, right? What is he trying to prove, and why is he troubling
Yes.
my
Yes.
life, right?
Yes.
So we
Yes.
need to handle all those. So
Hmm.
this is the third challenge, and the last challenge is we have a lot of these, dead horse syndrome or dead horse theory. We know that things are not working, but we still keep investing in that. For example, we would have a legacy application which is not working, which lands up in problem on a day-to-day basis, but yet we keep using it or we keep renewing the AMC to keep moving on just because we don't want to take the challenge of the change. So I would say these are the four areas of challenges that we need to deal with apart from the technology to make sure your digital transformation is.
These are very practical, things that you kind of talked about, and every digital transformation leader faces such kind of challenges, and
Yeah.
especially that is where the role of your kind of experts come into the picture, sir, because you exactly know where it's
Mhm.
gonna face the trouble, what needs to be done. So while you are modernizing the core systems in an organization, sir,
Mhm.
such as if you talk about enterprise platforms or
Mhm.
HR systems, what are the critical success factors that a leader should have in mind?
So critical success factors for these kind of platforms is one, you should have your requirements drafted. So I would not say 100% of requirements drafted. So at least you have something where you have some, I would say, to move forward. So see, any transformation, if you look at, you are only sure of 20 or 30%, and the rest 70% is evolves as you move on. So we call it progressive elaboration. So as and when you hit there, you kind of reinvent yourself or refine the process or refine the system or refine the configuration to make sure it works. So one is understand what you're getting into, the first thing. So I would call it as triple PT. First piece process, first piece purpose. Understand the purpose of that, why it is required, who's going to
Hmm.
use it, all the 5W1H you need to do. Then the second is people. Align the right people.
Hmm.
Okay, align the people who are open-minded, align the people who have knowledge of the subject so that they can contribute to the purpose. And the third is the process. So if you look at organizations, the processes mostly have become a tradition
Yes.
because it has been set once and everybody starts using it blindly.
Yes.
Nobody questioned it unless or until there is a certain change. So you need to question every step of the process. Why it has to be done like this? Why can't we look at something else?
Hmm.
So what is the waste that it is contributing to? Right. So we need to kind of look at all these things. And the final thing is the tools. If you have all these three things in place, then obviously the tools becomes very easy to
Yes.
select.
Right.
Otherwise, if you go bottoms up,
Yes.
then you will end up in a hangover the next day,
Yes.
right? So that's what it is. So the key success metrics is draft your purpose, get it signed,
Hmm.
make sure that is broadcasted day in and day out so that everybody is aware. Then also make sure your teams are selected in a way that it is also broadcasted and give them responsibilities on how it has to be, I would say, how it has to be executed, which is kind of attached to the objectives of each of the individual. And the third is document your process.
Hmm.
You might not have a documented the process all, I would say, but It is good that you document your existing process and also look at your future process and how you need to set up in that tools. So these are certain criteria that you need to take through when you're getting into a digital transformation.
Right. I think using this podcast, we can write a book on digital transformation. So it will sell like anything.
Yeah. So last 3 years, I'm planning to write a book on what was my
Absolutely.
experience in a healthcare, right? So it is not
Absolutely.
easy to transform, I would say, 60-year-old organization. So
Yes.
it's a journey.
And you're absolutely right, sir. Like a lot of the reports say that 70% of the digital transformation projects fail because they have a, as you told, bottom up approach. Like, they first of all decide the product, like they buy it in FOMO and then they start retrofitting it into their processes.
Yeah, yes, yes. See, traditionally that was done earlier, right? So see, now you have a plethora of softwares you can look at. When you look at 10 or 15 years ago, so you would have a software vendor who will come and say, I will develop something for you uniquely. So that is why most of the organizations have a very unique product, which is
Yes.
only tuned to their process. So that takes a hit when you look at scalability,
Right. Right. Yes.
right? So when that product was developed, it was for certain use cases, right? Normally patient will not have access to it. Example. So only certain people, the accounts people will use, or the people who are in the lab will use, and so on. Now, if you are basically rolling out to the patient, which means that you are also sharing data to the patient, which is you are projecting it to the outside world, which we need to look at performance, scalability, and reliability,
Yes.
right? So these legacy applications will always have a challenge.
And sir, while you're talking about digital infrastructure upgrades, so how do you balance cost, performance, and security?
Cost, performance, and security. See, one thing is in recent times, where when we are looking at a DBTP Act, right, and we are also looking at implementations of those acts. So there is one particular clause there where it says that anybody holding the data is a data fiduciary. So fiduciary is a loaded term. So it's a very loaded term because you have much more than you are much more accountable to hold your customers or your patient data. Because in case of leaks, obviously you will be penalized. So when you ask me whether it is, I say, money or performance or security, I would basically say you need to invest in security first. Because today we have multiple devices, right? People use laptops, people use mobile devices, people use tablets. You have your wearables as well, which means that your data can go out to an unknown source through different means.
Yes.
You need to have very robust IT policy. You need to have very robust security framework. So that an example of a security framework is you need to have your DLP systems in place. So we have seen some hospitals. So because I'm also an NABH digital health assessor. So they say that, okay, so our USBs are blocked. I say, yes, correct. So now are you guys using tablet? They say, yes. Can you use a USB on a tablet? Yes. So you need to have certain robust framework to basically mitigate all these things. And you need to have somebody look into this day in and day out to see where we are missing in the value chain, where the data is being moved in the value chain and who is accountable for it. So we need to ensure right people sees the right data at the right time.
So security should be the topmost priority. Right?
Security should be the topmost priority today. So with all we are seeing a lot of these AI systems also getting implemented, right? Now, if you let loose your AI algorithms into certain, I would say, your directories, it can learn a lot of things, and probably it can also spit out information for somebody who is not authorized also,
Yes.
right? Which is kind of risky. So you need to have those controls in place. So cybersecurity comes the first priority, other than cost and performance.
Got it, sir.
Performance is yes, it's required because you have a lot of these scalable applications running. You will require performance, but you cannot compromise on the cost. It will be like penny wise and pound foolish.
Yes. So for all these startups who are building up products for healthcare organizations, they should also start focusing on security first.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
See, this is something which I see lacking because most of the application that we have seen as a HIS, right, it lacks the RBAC approach,
Yes.
role-based access control. Role-based access control on the user interface, but role-based access control on the backend as well. That's something which we see missing. So they have to strengthen on all these areas.
And this is very insightful, sir. I think a lot of startup founders can basically take some clues from this part of the discussion. Sir, talking about predictive and preventive approaches, which are transforming industries like mobility and manufacturing. Do you see similar opportunities emerging in healthcare, especially in patient monitoring and preventive care?
Yes, yes. See, today, if you look at healthcare, right? So we are moving from a prescriptive, when I say prescriptive, which means that you have a headache or you have a temperature, you go to a doctor, you get the
Yes.
medicines, you come back. Right? This is prescriptive. And the second is preventive. So most people are transitioning from prescriptive to preventive. So this is a change that is happening.
Mm.
And parallelly, we often see a lot of these startups coming out with, I would say, predictive health. So they take a sample of your blood and they basically
Mm.
tell you which
Yes.
are the, I would say, the diseases that you are heading to. Right? It could be a diabetes or it could be hypertension, etc., whatever. And slowly, I think this will transition to precision medicine, okay, which means that today, if I have a fever, so doctors gives me 650 mg of paracetamol, depending upon my body weight. And I might not be requiring 650 mg. I might be requiring, let's say, 450 mg. Right? I cannot break the tablet into 450 mg.
Yes.
So we might also look at, I would say, a precision medicine where you are exactly prescribed what medicine you require, what is the dosage that you require. So we are in basically transition in all these four phases. So the major population is moving into preventive, and there are some startups who kind of give you certain services in predictive, and we are moving to precision. Now, when I talk about predictive and precision, what matters is your data. So today, if I look at healthcare, every hospital has their own standards of maintaining the data. I would rather standards, there is a structure of maintaining the data,
Mm.
maintaining the data. So these have to be unified, right? Now, for example, if I'm in hospital A,
Mm.
if I go to hospital B, the entire structure changes. So one is standardization of those data.
Yes.
So if I can draw a parallel with automotive, so in a car or in a truck or in a bus, so you see a OBD2 port. It's called onboard diagnosis. So any vehicle that is manufactured in the world, if you plug in and
Mm.
withdraw certain data from it, it is going to give you in the same format.
Yes.
These are automotive standards. Similarly, we need to come out with some healthcare standards. And I believe that ABDM is doing a lot on this. So they have set certain milestones, milestone one, milestone two, milestone three, so wherein they are trying to standardize the way we extract the data. The second part is how the data is maintained in the hospital. So today we see a lot of these data is maintained in paper. It is more of a, I would say, creative writing that goes there. Okay, so normal patient cannot make out, the doctor can make out what is written, and the pharmacist can make out what is written.
Yes.
Now, and if you ask an AI algorithm to figure out what it is, I don't know. It cannot, right? So most of these paper data has to be converted to digital, which is not going to happen,
Mm.
right? It's not going to happen overnight because there are a lot of complications.
Mm.
So to arrive at that predictive and precision, see, because every human is different, every body type is different. So you need to have adequate information of the particular person. So it takes time. Now, the first part is you need to have all this information in one place so that you can run your predictive algorithms and
Yes.
so that you can expect certain outcomes. So I think for a healthcare, we have a long way to go. Okay? Though there are hospitals like Narayana and so on, they have come out with their own prediction models
Mm.
because they are being able to maintain those records in a proper structured way. So similarly, we need to have that done for all the other hospitals. So this is a challenge, and this is something which we need to deal with.
Got it, sir.
So why manufacturing is more successful than healthcare? It is because of standardization of data.
Got it, sir. And if we talk about the healthcare as a sector, so what are the various cybersecurity challenges that you see?
Healthcare sector cybersecurity challenges. I think you would have read about a couple of hacks happened last year, right? So in today, most of your equipments are connected to network. So which is basically your hospital information system.
Yes.
It's connected to your internal networks and your equipments, for example, labs,
The
right?
OTO.
It's connected to networks. And if you're looking at robotic surgery, so it has to be monitored real time. The telemetry has to be real time, right? So these are again connected to networks. Then you have plethora of these IoT devices connected to network. And if somebody tries to intrude, or if somebody is successful in getting through one of those equipment, then it can cause a havoc. So it not only, I would say, restrict them from using certain services, but also it can compromise on data. So healthcare data today is very valuable. So, and it is very confidential as well because a lot of things evolve around that data. if somebody gets my healthcare data, complete history of my health, right?
Mm.
So, and if they sell it to an insurance organization, or if they basically sell it to the black market. So tomorrow, if I'm applying loan or if I'm paying a premium of insurance, then obviously these things will be a trade-off that I would need to make, right? And plus, since they have an entire history, so you can do a lot of things. So when they're going to fish out, they're not going to fish out only one data. They're going to fish out data of the entire patient in the hospital, right? It is going to be very catastrophic. So that is why cybersecurity is very, very important today. And see, one of the things that we see is you can implement tools, right? Like I said in the first part. So you can implement a lot of tools. You can implement DLP systems. You can implement real-time monitoring and all that. But apparently, if you're not creating the awareness among the users, so we often see papers floating around the hospitals, right? So it is easy to take a snap and it is easy to circulate
Yes.
because nobody is stopping a camera,
Ah, right.
right? So there has to be certain measures where you are prevented from doing that. The only way to do that is to go digital fully. If you are paperless, then you are secure. Forget about the people hacking from outside. So it is more of an intrinsic issue that we need to deal with.
Yes, yes, absolutely, sir. And this data is very, very easily transferred from here to there because, I've seen a lot of people taking the screenshot of the prescription and sending it to a lab with whom they are connected with. And then that lab gives a call, for your blood test or something.
So off late, I've seen this. One of the doctors, when I was kind of going for an healthcare assessment, the digital health assessment.
Mm.
So he was proudly telling me that, I generate a discharge summary on, okay.
Mm.
So I was basically baffled.
Mm.
How can you give out a patient information?
Right. Yes.
So what he has done is he has taken a photo of whatever that is prescribed and so on, and he has uploaded to GPT, and he says, please give me a discharge summary for this patient. Now your entire patient information is taken for training your
Yes.
GPT,
Yes.
right? Again, it is on the open world.
Mm.
So these are certain things we need to be very restrictive of.
Right, sir. These are, sir, on a lighter note, I will tell you, like, there's one person who works in our company
Mhm.
and he had a breakup and he was very sad. So I asked him that what happened? Why are you sad? And he told that, sir, I went through a breakup, so I need a break of 2 to 3 days to recover from that. I asked him why did the breakup happen? Then he told that my girlfriend went on Chat GPT, wrote about whatever issues was happening between me and her, and asked for suggestion. And the Chat GPT replied that you should have a breakup. I was like, sir, it's so dangerous.
See, people see, as humans, we are creative, right? So if we find something very easy to get answers, so we use it.
Yes.
But in healthcare, I think we have to be very cautious. You're dealing with a life there, right? So patients are not customers. So you have to be
Yes.
very, very cautious in handling the data.
Absolutely, sir. And at the fag end of this podcast, sir, we'll like to understand from you which emerging technologies do you see will have the biggest impact? AI, automation, digital twins, in the coming few years.
See, automation, digital twins. I think see everything will have a say on your workflows going forward, right?
Mm.
Your whichever process workflows that you have. So what I see is typically in healthcare, right? You see a lot of these mundane jobs that is being done in the finance or in the HR or in the operations, right? So these can be completely automated, right? So if I want to give you a realistic example, so a simple thing, right? So patient gets admitted in the hospital,
Mm.
right? So then a lot of services or treatment is being done on the patient. So you basically add your bill of material. So now when it is due for the discharge, somebody says, it marks it saying that, okay, so I have initiated for discharge of this patient. And once the discharge is intimated, then we need to understand what are the other things that are pending from the patient. It could
Mm.
or from the labs. It could be certain reports. It could be certain things, right? So all these are something which is manually checked. So very few HIS, I would say maybe I can count a few HIS which does it automatically, right? Automatically. So most of the HIS is manual. And once everything is done, it goes back to the finance or the accounting department or the billing department for the settlement. Now again, somebody has to click saying that generate again.
Mm.
Now it recalculates everything, right?
Yeah.
So all these things can be automated. So once you hit on discharge, once you click on discharge this patient, so all this can be automated a link can be generated to the patient where he pays and he moves on. So it can be so simplified. With automation, we can do that. And with AI, a lot of things can be done on the insurance claims.
Yes.
So, and see, digital twin is a long way to go. Like I said, you need a plethora of data to kind of create a digital twin of yourself, right? It is not a one episode of fever that you can use it for prediction. You need multiple episodes, such episodes along your life, right? So that it can give you an accurate prediction.
And if you have to give one piece of advice to all the leaders starting their digital transformation journey, what would that be?
One piece of advice, I don't have one piece of advice. Maybe I can give them
Ye-
multiple. See,
Yes.
one
Yeah.
piece of advice I can say that see, learn from your mistakes. It's more simple as that,
Yes.
right? So, and second is don't start a digital transformation without a written purpose and without objectives being set against your respective stakeholders. So it is mandate. Without that, it is going to be a bigger failure.
Yes. And you have touched upon this in the beginning itself. First is purpose, second is responsibility, and third is the process, and the fourth one is the tool set.
Tools, yes. Tools you can figure out. It is much more easy to figure out tools than people, right? So once you have people, you need to set them objectives which is aligned to that purpose. Otherwise, it is nuts, right? So the third part is be aware of the productivity paradox.
Yes.
You can automate or you can automate certain things, but you cannot overdo it. Point of overdoing it is your people will do the same work over and over again. So classic case is we had set up this SAP workflow for PR approvals. Earlier, we did not have a concept of PR approvals. So it was more on paper. We had one person taking a bunch of papers, about 50, 60 pages, running around getting signatures from all the stakeholders. We converted that into a digital platform. Now, even after using SAP, people will approve on the system, but still they will sign on the paper,
Yes. 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 Yes.
right?
I've seen that.
You have provision to scan it and upload it,
Yes.
right? And you have place to give a justification why it is required. People do that. Now, the final authority there will not approve on the system unless he sees the paper.
Mm.
So this is what we call it as a productivity paradox. Because we are not changed, right? We are still using paper to define our approvals. So
Mm.
we should make sure that we don't overdo this, and we should also be very strict in terms of how to what is the process that needs to be followed, and how we need to measure those effectiveness of the process. This has to be reported day in and day out, and the success rate of reduction in time and the improvement in efficiency have to be communicated week on week to your stakeholders, saying that we have improved so much. We have been able to approve so many PRs in a short time. So these things have to be done.
Great,
Yep.
sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for all the insights. Very, very valuable session for all the healthcare leaders from across the globe.
And one more important
Yes.
point. Okay, so
Yes.
if you are in an organization where it is kind of an NGO or something, you will have every Tom, Dick, and Harry coming and giving you a piece of advice or influencing your stakeholders on what they think it is right.
Yes.
Okay, so I think there is some issue with the light. Yeah, so I had a lot of these experiences when I was in St. John's.
Yeah.
So
And those are the people who are there in the industry for 35 years.
yeah. So they don't understand the situation because they want to basically put out what they think, or maybe they want to kind of create an impression that
Yes.
your team is nuts.
Yes.
So they kind of give you all this infinity information. Anyway, so some are good.
Mm.
I would say about 5%. I would say it is valuable, but the rest is garbage. And we have people also believing that this guy is from IBM. He's speaking the truth.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Because they don't understand what is the background of that person.
Yes.
Right. So
Right.
anyway, so there are some challenges because nobody understands IT. Everybody seems to have a perception that they don't know IT, but apparently. So these are some of the advice that I would like to give to people so that they are well aware of what is happening in a digital transformation if they are taking up the journey.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for sharing all these insights. Very insightful session. And, must say that one of the best podcasts that we have done on digital transformation till now. Thank you so much. Extremely grateful that you took out time. We'll be in touch, sir. And
Sure.
looking forward to hosting you again and again.
Thank you so much. Nice being a part of the discussion.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.